The content discussed in this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and should not be construed as financial or mortgage advice. Always consult with a licensed professional before making any decisions regarding mortgages or financial matters.
Welcome to the Canadian Mortgage Show. Here are mortgage professionals Alex Pang and Alex Shanks to cut through the BS and educate Canadians on all things mortgages and real estate.
Welcome to another episode of the Canadian Mortgage Show. This is episode 31. Alex Pang here alongside my co-host Alex Shanks. Alex, how are you doing? You look like you've been running around.
I'm doing pretty good. It's been busy. I'm also a year older here now. So I might be feeling a little bit slower, a little bit under the weather. Just had a nice birthday party over the weekend.
Oh yes, I'd like to say happy belated birthday. I wished Alex happy birthday this past Saturday, and still not as old as me.
No, I haven't caught up to you yet.
Yeah, I was at a birthday party this past weekend too. It was one of my friend's 50th birthdays. So it was quite the nice get together. A lot of high school friends. Actually, it was my wife's best friends, or one of a good friend's side. And it was good seeing old faces and all reminiscing on, damn, we're getting old.
I got to play in a hockey tournament. I probably scored more goals there than Bure. But getting to catch up with old friends and everything. It's always an awesome time. And reminiscing of like, all right, how old am I? Am I 32, 33? No, shit, I'm 34 now.
That's still good. We have a jam-packed show. Today, we thought we would start in reverse order. We thought we'd start in the regional because there was a lot of regional news the last couple of weeks, but we've pushed it down because there's just been so much national tariff talk, election talk. So we're going to start off the show today about regional talk. Okay. So first off here, BC Premier David Eby has been waging war against real estate speculators over the last 7 years. And now the tables have turned. He is desperately trying to entice people back into the pool because guess what? The real estate market is soft and not many transactions are happening. Not much tax dollars are being generated. And you know what?
Their budgets are going to be so messed up. Like some cities, like they've been living on those like for forever.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? This comes on the heels of a record-setting $10 billion deficit. So there are desperate times ahead. So politicians now are grasping at straws, looking for ways to entice the money to come back. And you know what? This segues into another thing that's more local. Do you want to touch on that, Alex?
Yeah, this is where Vancouver's Condo King, Bob Rennie, revealed that he's working with PM Mark Carney, who is the PM at the moment, that he is trying to find a way. So to break it down for people, we have the CMHC, which everyone always says CMHC insurance. Really, it's mortgage insurance. Now, what Bob Rennie is talking about is, well, how do we find a way to get investors, foreign investors, to buy into our market? Well, let's make a pool so they get low rates. When you get mortgage insurance, we know that you get the lowest rates out there. And so what he's trying to say is, hey, let's get rid of foreign buyers and let's make a rental program in where people can buy it. And it's going to be getting put into a 25-year pool, which you'll get that preferred rate and it will allow foreign buyers to buy it, but they have to rent it out for 25 years. And he says this is then going to show the world that we're open up for business.
Yeah, let me just clarify there. You mentioned he wants to remove the foreign buyer ban. So currently the ban it got extended to 2027. And it sounds like based on Bob Rennie talking like this he wants to have it lifted. And we saw it in the last good 10, 15 years that pre-sale developments, there have been anecdotal stories where developers have been marketing to overseas, to Hong Kong, to China, to bring foreign money. And we've seen it at the start of 2015 when all the money from Hong Kong and China was starting to come over, when they were clamping down on money in China. So
I find this funny here, Alex, because they're like, all right, they want their money out of China because they don't want the government to have the control over it. But hey, bring it over to Canada. You can buy it, but it's going to be locked in for 25 years. You're going to lock it into real estate and you can't do anything with it. And so it just seems really weird. So like, could they do that, and then could they just sell it and then they're fine, or are they not going to be allowed to sell it? And that's just where I don't fully understand the plan on it.
Yeah, you know what? Honestly, I don't even like it either, because it goes against what we've been trying to do, is to clamp down on immigration. And it's basically allowing foreign money to come in to prop up a real estate market again, like how it accelerated, especially BC and Ontario. Like essentially the whole Vancouver model, I'm saying Vancouver because we're here, was to offshore the money from China, Hong Kong. We know it's mostly Asia, to come into bring the money here to Vancouver, in cases Toronto, park the money in real estate, and have them have satellite families here. And in Vancouver, they're living in a wealthy area called Shaughnessy. And it most likely is usually the mom and the kid that's studying school here. And they would claim ultra low taxes and they would be at poverty levels. Whereas where the husband is working abroad making the money. And so that money, yes, it's here locally, but it's not productive money. We're not gaining any tax dollars from it. They're not being productive in terms of our society. And it creates like a lot of ghost towns that like what we've seen in parts of the West Side in Vancouver.
That's where it would make sense to me more of like, hey, yes, you can come here, but hey, you have to, that income that you're claiming in China is like the money you're making there. Well, it needs to be shown here as well. Obviously, yeah, you don't have to pay double taxes, but that's where the funds or, hey, come here, bring your business here. That's to me what's needed. Now, I could see this, like we have what like actual CMHC financing for developers that want to build condos to rent. They get preferred rates. They're down way lower than everyone else, and they have to put minimum down payments. If Alex and I, if we want to go buy a rental property, we have to have a 20% down payment. They're able to do it with a 5% down payment. I think this would be something that maybe we should start incentivize to Canadians saying, hey, do you want to buy into this rental pool? It's a 25-year thing. This is where you're going to get lower rates, and incentivize some building and rentals that way. Yeah. Canadians, we do like real estate, but again, why are we trying to get it solely from another country? Like let's come back to home and say, hey, Canada, do you guys want to get together and do some stuff?
Yeah, this kind of goes into the whole tariff talk too. Like, hey, buy Canadian, be productive as a society. And I was ranting last week about we need to be productive as a society and not just be a real estate country. Yes, Alex and I are in this industry. When business is great, of course, but we want as a society on the greater grand scheme of things, like we want to be innovative. We want to be productive. We want to have businesses grow here in Canada.
Exactly.
But yeah, you know what? That'd be interesting if Rennie, if Carney doesn't get elected, and let's say it's Pierre, would Bob Rennie still work with Pierre on this? Or is this a liberal only mandate? Who knows?
I don't think it's something that Pierre would get on board with. Not at the moment. It's not something that I could see him being on board.
Based on what I'm seeing on the conservative mandate and what their platform is, like opening up foreign buyers to buy, I think that kind of goes against what they believe in. And it's almost like, like we've seen that from the Liberals the last 10 years. And this would open up the door for the same old, to be honest.
Yeah, totally.
So, you know what? This is another one that just boils my blood. It's not here in Vancouver, but it's happening in Toronto. The Toronto City Councillors have voted to give themselves a 24% pay raise. Isn't that great?
How do they vote for them? Like, shouldn't the people there have to vote for them to say, hey, yeah, you have done a good job. We think you deserve a pay raise.
Yeah. Industry in the world, other than government, can you give yourself a pay raise? Like, even of companies, of private companies, the board votes or they have a plan to whatever pay raises and stuff. Only in government can you give yourself a pay raise. So it's like 24%. So check this out. The numbers go from their average annual earnings is 137,000. It'll go up to over 170,000. That's just mind blowing.
It's a massive raise, and I feel like is it back pay? Like, did they have they not had raises in a long time? I doubt it. I bet you they have, and that's where it's 24 for 1 year, and that city's taxes, those will be going up.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and especially with the real estate purchases being down, so they're not getting as much land transfer tax revenue. Guess what's going to go up? Property taxes. Yep. So folks in Toronto, you're going to be paying for this through your higher property taxes. So,
yep.
All right, that's it for the regional. Like we're gonna talk a little bit about real estate here. The big banks recently updated the forecast. We're gonna get this graph put up as well. You've seen this a couple weeks ago. Pretty much the big banks, like other than what Scotiabank is expecting probably average around 0.5% to another 0.75% rate cuts for the rest of this year. And this is also assuming no tariffs, right? I believe this was but we're in the middle of it already. We're recording on like March 31st. And
tariffs are meant to come back April 2nd here.
Yeah, April 2nd. So this whole thing is going to change, but that's where we're at right now.
That's where it's going, but this is the big one. And I think we should throw this graph up here as well, because it's a pretty telltale thing here that the business confidence in Canada has collapsed to decades low. This is below, we are at 25 on here. This is lower than anything like that we can see since past 2000. We go back to 2009, we're below that. That is like businesses are scared to be investing in businesses right now.
Yeah, so like, if you guys can see this visually, what Alex is explaining is this is worse than, imagine dating back 5 years ago when COVID first broke out. We were all scared. Businesses froze because we didn't know there was huge uncertainty. And even dating back to 2008, the U.S. subprime meltdown, the global financial crisis. The current business confidence today is lower than those two events, which is an indicting moment on where we are in Canada right now. Like, this is why a lot of businesses aren't hiring. They are maybe doing preventative layoffs. And we're seeing in multiple industries, not mass layoffs, but slowly laying off staff. So
and then this is where it gets scary. Well, and this is where the government they're going to have to step in and say, all right, we're going to have to give some funding to these companies to make sure people aren't going to get laid off and everything, which we do know what happened during COVID on that. Now, that's just the hardest thing here is COVID was like, hey, we don't know what's going to happen. We do know what's going to happen here. If tariffs come in, like, there's jobs are being lost. And what was it? It was Tiff Macklin that talked about it before, saying that if this does go through, this is an economic shift for for Canada that may never get changed. Something that will affect us for the rest of time.
Yeah. No, it's like this things need to prove, and especially this federal election that's coming, which we'll get into a lot more later. It is very key to right the ship and where we are in terms of our country right now. So next up here, TD released they usually send out these market updates or economic updates, and they now see that home sales and prices falling in 2025 with the tariff uncertainty. And it goes on par with the whole sentiment in the market, don't you think?
Totally. That's right. Like, even when I'm talking to people right now, there's certain areas, like I know talking with you, Alex, like in Vancouver area, purchases are dead. On the island, it's quite hot right now. And that's where I feel like there's pockets areas that are still busy, but obviously it's the towns and cities that have more to lose from the tariffs here. Where I live, there's not like a direct correlation directly to tariffs. The logging industry, that can be a bad one, but it's not really what's bringing the new people here. A lot of them are like in the tech industry, they're doctors, and so they're not going to be losing their jobs from these tariffs. Where in Vancouver, I feel like home prices, they could go down more if these tariffs come in, because a lot of people aren't going to have their jobs.
Yeah, and I see a larger majority of this number. Again, we're going to throw the graph on there on the video side. The big number is what we're seeing is condos. Condos, we have a huge oversupply of it because investor owners are just unloading because it's negative cash flow. It's been negative for the last couple of years because rates have shot up to the moon, even though it's come down from the top. Still negative, and you can only be so negative for so long as an investor. Like, not including what's happening in your own personal budgets, you're paying a lot more in your personal size too. So investor owners are bleeding cash. So on the other token, if you're in the mode of purchasing, then there's opportunities to be had. Of course, buyer sentiment is not great, so you have to fight against it. If you are in the mode of purchasing, there are deals to be had. So this is a good time to, especially if you're buying here.
And again, the same as always is just looking at your numbers and being prepared. It's just seeing what happens. And every week is changing, having conversations with people. Hey, this is what we're doing this week. If anything changes, we're going to be re-talking about that.
A little talk about tariffs here. Like we mentioned that the tariffs in the States are going to be imposed on April the 2nd. By the time you guys listen to this, it's already there. Who knows if it changed?
Trump said, like, I'm actually, he's like, I feel like Canada's lower on my list right now. He feels, I think, and we'll get into it more, like he likes Mark Carney right now.
Yeah, we'll talk about that part. But one thing I wanted to highlight too is that the tariffs between China and Canada, that's less in the spotlight, but still there. There's 100% of China, 100% tariffs on Chinese EVs. And I keep seeing those videos on BYD, those Chinese EVs. They're like, they put Tesla to shame. They're amazing. They're like, and they're all for like what, 60 grand for the nicest one. And
Well, like you remember back in the day, like and myself, like Alex, when I was in high school, I remember I have some friends that they had family back in Asia and everything. When they come back, the phones that they had back then were insane. Like the technology there compared to we are is like we're so far behind and stuff, and it's just hilarious how we think we're above them.
you know what? It's funny that you say that. I'm actually looking at getting a new phone pretty soon. It's one of those foldables, like the big foldables, because we're in business and a lot of times we're out and about, and it'd be nice to have a bigger screen to look at PDF documents and such. So there's a phone that I've been eyeing ever since it came out. It is called the OnePlus Open, which is amazing. It beats out this. This is definitely not a sponsored ad, but this is just my personal opinion. It beats out the Samsung Fold, and I've liked the Samsung Fold, but I find it too thin when it's closed, and it's too thick. So OnePlus Open is like amazing. It actually has the like a phone style size when it's closed, but they're not having the OnePlus Open 2 where I was waiting for it, but they're having the Chinese version, the Oppo Find N5, but they're not releasing it in North America or Europe, but they do have a global version, and I'm looking to import that. And my goodness, that phone might cost me like $3,000. But I've been watching videos and reviews and all over the forums like that. So stay tuned. I will buy. I might buy an Oppo. I don't care about this whole. Oh, you're buying a Chinese product. You're gonna be spied on, folks. I'm not that important. You can look at all you want.
That's what I always tell you. They're looking at my phone, but this is interesting. We were talking about this before. Canada, we give a lot of money to the auto industry, and Carney is promising $2 billion to the auto industry, which we do know could be hurt dramatically by what's going to happen with the tariffs. We subsidize like the auto industry. I think it's like by $50 billion a year. Like the government subsidizes these companies and stuff, and it's like, why do we just keep giving them money?
Yeah, and I don't think there's any truly Canadian vehicle. It's obviously like this North American vehicle. And I don't know about you, but North American vehicles are not very reliable. The domestics are not very reliable. Like the Fords, the GMs,
I find Ford's been a lot better. I still have a Ford, and back in the day, like Ford was like the cheaper version of trucks and everything. It's the base model for a Ford now is like 85 grand.
Yeah.
I do find they have gotten quite a bit better now.
Yeah.
But again, it's still, why are we not either incentivizing a Canadian built company or saying like, hey, you know what? For one, car companies made record profits during COVID. Like refer, and now they're like, oh, we're going to lose some money, and oh, don't worry, we'll give you some more money.
Yeah, exactly. Something that's lost in this though is I'm hearing a lot of chatter too that the food industry is getting ignored. Now, China, in response to the 100% tariffs from Canada for the EVs, they've responded with a 100% tariff on canola oil, because we do apparently export a lot of canola oil to China, and they're putting a 100% tariff on that. And they're also putting a 25% tariff on pork and seafood that we export.
That's a big one.
Yeah,
that's a massive one. Yeah. I used to be a commercial diver, and we would do sea urchins, gooey ducks, sea cucumbers. That all goes to the Asia markets, and the prices are going to go bad because of it.
Yeah, but nothing from Carney on that side, on the food side. So I guess stay tuned. All right. The next stuff is we got a lot of election stuff to talk about. So why don't you start?
Yeah, and what everyone, just so you know, like we do always want to make sure we're bringing it back here. Like a lot of this is actually could be good for real estate. For one, we are going to be talking about some things, but this is we need to talk about this, like to make sure to know what's going on with the market. Alex and I could just sit here and talk about interest rate, mortgage products, and everything. But we do that directly with the client. We want to share information. We want to share for people what we're doing. So if people do have questions and be like, hey, do you want us to talk less about the like federal stuff and policies? Let us know. But for us, these are the questions that we do get from clients. And so we're like, hey, you know what? We need to make sure we're doing broad topics for people. And so we'll go into the federal election. And this is where Mark Carney's facing some plagiarism accusations for 1995 Oxford doctoral thesis. Now, I'm going to need you to talk to me about this here, Alex, because you are the guy that finds all our information. So tell me what's going on here.
Yeah, so especially when there's an election cycle and campaigning, people are charged to dig up dirt on the opposing candidate because it's all part of politics, smearing and all that stuff. He's been accused of, I wouldn't say, I guess they call it plagiarism, but his doctorate in economics from Oxford, it was highlighted here, I believe, on the National Post. It shows that there's 10 instances of plagiarism, according to academics who reviewed the material. Honestly, it's probably more like a nothing burger because really it just more points to sloppy work and not citing his appropriate sources.
And it's 1995. Is it different now? For one, we can use the internet to be able to do some stuff and be like, oh shit, you like really copied someone. It's like, he may have just written it and not even known what he had done.
Yeah, like cooler heads would prevail. If anything, he probably just didn't cite properly. So colleges and universities face that all the time anyway. But because Mark Carney is in the public eye, I'm sure people are finding ways to and you know what? I would like this graphic to be put up too, but this kind of goes towards Carney's been accused of copying Pierre Poilievre's campaign promises, where like, hey, we're going to do this. Oh, and Carney and being part of Trudeau's group been so against it. Now, trying to come back in the polls, they've essentially almost copied it. So here's this graphic to like almost like a political humor to show what's going on.
The thing is, like, they realized, and I mean, good on the Liberals, like for whoever's running their campaign and everything right now, like they did realize, like, hey, we got to change something up here. And again, it could be a lot of just speech. Are they just saying these things to obviously get people to vote? I remember when Trudeau first got in power, I remember asking me like, oh, why'd you vote for him? Like, I just want to change. And he told us he was going to do a bunch of stuff for students. A lot of the promises he made, other than legalizing marijuana, never got upheld. And I was actually talking with my wife about that. Alex, what do you think if we, like the Canadians, were to say, hey, whatever you say, like you talking about all these different policies, you have to put something down on paper and say, hey, these are my top things that I am going to do. I have to try and get them done before my term is up, maybe a little bit lower. And let's say if they don't get them done in a certain amount of time, we the people can say, hey, we want an election. You told us you were going to get stuff done. You have not been doing what you promised us.
That sounds great in theory, but that would involve a huge change of the Constitution. And my goodness, this would essentially, you're uprooting society as we know it. I don't know any country that does that, to be honest.
No, I don't. But I feel like they just get to say almost whatever they want. Like they could say, hey, I'm going to give $1 million to every Canadian. Oh shit! Sorry, I didn't look at the budget there.
Yeah, exactly. So at the end of the day, no person's perfect, no politician's perfect, and whoever comes into power will eventually not like them because things will build up and all that stuff, and we're going to change then. But we're here to navigate through it, talk about it, and how it relates to housing and in terms of our personal finances as well.
Yeah. Okay. And these are big ones here, talking about obviously other policies. This one doesn't specifically have anything to do with like the real estate side, but Pierre did announce like, hey, mandatory life sentences for mass gun shooting. Sorry, not mass gun shooting. We pretty much don't have that here in Canada. Mass gun smuggling, human trafficking, and fentanyl trafficking crimes. Which again, like, is this something that we even have to say? Like, why is it something that we need to even talk about? Like, this should just be done by the government. Shouldn't even be a question.
Yeah, it should already be done. And I think Canada has been known to be a easy place to commit crimes because we don't have much enforcement, or the whole punishment doesn't meet the crimes. And another thing I want to add too is we don't have a strong enough white collar crime enforcement punishment, like what we saw in the States when TD got slapped with that $3 billion fine for all the money laundering. No one got charged. Same thing when we talked about last week when fake mortgage broker, because yes, a whole lot of licenses got lost, a lot of fines issued, but no criminal charges were laid. because the RCMP was not interested. Like, so it basically says white collar crime pays. So
Yeah.
the fact that want to crack down on this, that's a good thing, because we need to kind of deter crime from happening in Canada. So
yeah, it's a good one. Now I'll let you talk about this one here, Alex. This is the big one. This is actually like economic changing.
Yeah, this one probably, well, not as big as probably you were alluding to, but this one is probably like Pierre is, if he gets elected, is looking to allow traveling trade workers write off their travel for work on their taxes. Right now, CEOs are able to claim that their bonuses, and because they travel on their private jets. So that's a good thing here. But I guess the one that you were alluding to here is,
I missed that other one.
Yeah. Pierre is, if elected, he's going to introduce a reinvestment tax cut. So it's essentially you're deferring the capital gains when you reinvest the proceeds in Canada. So what investments they are, it includes real estate, factories, mines, stocks, small businesses, and he wants to make our economy independent from the US. So the tax will be deferred until you sell the asset for good or you reinvest outside of Canada. So initially, this plan was, he's going to say that it's going to be good from January 1st of this year to December 31st of 2026. So this 2-year window, and he's going to monitor it. If the results are good, he may make it a permanent change. So do you like it or do you not? What do you think?
I like it. This is something, for one, I think there's some other things that, like, this is something that is in the US. Like, this is what the US does, especially when it comes to real estate. It allows people to buy it, and it's going to incentivize people to potentially build or fix more homes. If you buy a house, you're like, all right, I've done it, I want to sell it. Well, for one, there's already capital gains that you do have to pay, which is limiting people wanting to do it. Again, people are here to make money. That is how the world works. Obviously, we want to make sure everyone profits at the same time. This would just allow saying, hey, yes, I've sold my house. I'm now going to go buy another house. That means those profits have to be used to go build another house, which, for one, that's employing people. You got people that are construction workers. You have floors. You have kitchen people. It's employing all those people. And it's going to allow someone that is maybe a contractor or a builder saying, hey, you know what? I can actually do this more and start keeping these places to sell them and go buy another place. Where before they had to plan, all right, I made some money, I had to pay a bunch in taxes, I now can't do this for another year.
This almost creates it like almost like an RSP kind of scheme, like you're deferring the taxes till later.
You're paying it, like it's
you are going to pay it. It's just allowing you to stay reinvested, which encourages transactions, encourages some activity, some money movement to happen.
It'll encourage more businesses, like the bigger businesses, come to Canada, say, all right, we're not going to get taxed on all this stuff. Like when companies in Canada buy and sell other parts of businesses, they get taxed on it. And they're like, well, why would I do this here in Canada? I could go to the US, I could go to any other country, and I don't get taxed on it.
Yeah. Like from a housing standpoint, it does incentivize capital into the new housing development and create more supply. Now, of course, it needs to be the right kind of supply, not the shoeboxes in the sky. It needs to be more missing middle, entry-level homes, that kind of thing. Now, some critics are saying that it'll only encourage land banking from boomers and corporations. Now, boomers do own like 50% of the investment properties out there. So I do see that point, but you do need investors to have housing development. It's just like them or not, there needs to be investment. Like money needs to flow in order for builders to build. Otherwise, they're not going to be able to meet certain sales numbers and to release new funding to even start their project. So no, I do.
It's going to be interesting. Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see. And that's where we can even talk like in mortgages in Canada, your primary residence, we can't write off the interest on it. In the US, they get to write off their interest on it. And that's a tax savings right there. Like it saves people tens of thousands of dollars, where in Canada, we don't have that. So again, it just incentivizes us in a different way.
Yeah. On the flip side, though, in Canada, we do have the primary residence exemption. Like if you sell your primary residence, it's not taxable, whereas US, it does. They don't have that, right? So
that's again, there's pros and cons for each one.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then this is where we're going to start talking about where Donald Trump has a little bit of, I would say he's got a little BF with Carney here. Carney finally speaks to Trump. Trump said it was a successful call. Now he says, I just finished speaking with Prime Minister Mark Carney of Canada. It was an extremely productive call. We agree on many things and we'll be meeting immediately after Canada's upcoming election to work on elements of politics, business, and all other factors that will end up being great for both the United States of America and Canada. Thank you to your attention on this matter. Now, I know that I saw other posts going around there, Alex, of him saying like, I mean, like pretty much said like I made him come into power. I've helped the Liberals, like showing they were down in the dumps and now they're up because of me.
Like a lot of things can be read into this. First, he didn't refer to Mark Carney as governor, where he did for Trudeau. So it basically pretty much said that he didn't like Trudeau, and he was just essentially making fun of him with the 51st state and all that stuff. Totally. And he's basically assuming that Carney's going to get reelected, or he's basically showing that he wants to get reelected. Now, why is the case here? Carbon taxes cause Canadian investments to flood into the U.S. $500 billion worth. Of course, Trump loves carbon tax Carney. That's what Pierre says. I'm not just making it up, but of course that's why he's rooting for Carney, because he's actually good for the U.S. Yeah.
And that's just, again, this is all politics. It's all show.
Yeah.
It's obviously Trump has to he knows if he does want to start to make some deals with Canada, he's going to have to buddy up with someone. And is he thinking that Carney is the guy? But it is like right here, didn't Carney just the day before that say the relationship is over with the U.S.?
Yeah.
And it's just so funny. Like it's and I'm getting, it's so hard. Social media like makes everything so vividly out there now that some of this stuff is probably like nothing, but it gets blown up to a lot of things.
Yeah, it's a whole bunch of grandstanding and kind of like posturing, just to all politicking. But yeah, here's some interesting news now here for on the election trail here. Liberal MP Paul Chang. So he basically apologized for suggesting Tory candidate Joe Tay, but because he was saying that he should be turned over to the Chinese, the CCP, the consulate, for $1 million Hong Kong dollars, which is about 184,000 Canadian, or a Hong Kong bounty. So what he says is, I think he might have been saying it in jest as a joke, but if you can take him to the Chinese consulate general in Toronto, you can get that $1 million reward. Now, Chang and Toy were both running on the Markham Unionville riding in Ontario. So the whole history behind this is that Joe Tay, he's a former resident of Hong Kong, has been charged under the Asian city's widely condemned national security law because he's running a YouTube channel in Canada and he was critical of the Beijing-dominated government. So he's basically voicing an opinion, having free speech. But of course, being in Chinese rule, you don't really have free speech. So that's why he had a bounty on his head. So Tay, he was recently vying for the Conservative nomination, and Tay actually got moved over to the Don Valley North instead. So China critics say that the timing of his bounty was designed by Beijing to undermine his chances of winning the Markham riding, which has a large ethnic Chinese population. So, yeah, basically, Paul Chang was under hot water for saying the wrong things or saying something that he might have meant it as a joke, but it did not ring clear. It was not good. So,
I don't think I ever want to be in politics. There's stuff that I wish I could go in and change, but this is where, like you said, he may have completely done it as a joke. But again, there's certain things that you don't say, and obviously you don't say it in front of crowds and people.
Yeah, it all came into question too. Like, oh, if you're saying something like that, that means like people take it one step further. Are like, oh, does that mean Paul Chang is under the influence of the CCP, the Communist Party of China? And same thing. And by the fact that Carney was silent on the issue, and he was just basically saying that this could be a learning moment for Paul Chang. And immediately people called for his disqualification and removal from running. But just before the recording of this pod, all this noise regarding Paul Chang, he actually resigned his candidacy from the election. And I quote, "I do not want there to be distractions." Well, sorry, buddy. You were a distraction. So
Yep.
Yeah, that ain't good.
It'll be interesting to see what Carney says of it, because like you said, he didn't say anything at all, and he even said like, "Oh, like this is a learning thing," and he's learned from it and everything. And so it'll be interesting to see if he swings the story differently now.
Just by Carney not doing anything, it wasn't a really good look on Carney anyway. So Paul Chang was trying to save face and be like, you know what, this ain't looking good. I better, or either he resigned or he was told to resign.
I bet you there's people out there that are going to be watching Paul Chang here to see like if he gets put onto any companies like boards or anything anywhere that way, to be like, oh, so why did you just go get this really nice job?
Exactly. So we're not going to all just talk about the Conservatives and Pierre, what they're doing, but hey, Carney has bounced back with his own plan. Do you want to touch into that?
Yeah, and there's some stuff in here that I totally agree with. Now, what Carney's announced is a $35 billion plan called Build Canada Homes to increase home building to 500K a year. Now, just so everyone knows, the most homes that we ever built in Canada, it was 276,000. If everyone guessed, I bet you they would all be wrong on the year that this was built in. It was built in 1976. Now, there was a lot more reasons and like gung-ho to get that stuff done. And the homes that they built were a lot more affordable back then, obviously. But to think that we're going to try and build 500,000 a year, again, like let's come down to like a realistic number. Like let's actually try and hit something. Say, hey, I want to aim to beat the most homes ever built in Canada. Do that. And then, hey, if you can get to 500,000, amazing. But what was it? We like, what's the closest we've even been to? Like 220 since then? Like we're so far away from that.
Yeah. And so just to get into further detail, it's a $35 billion plan. So he's going to supply $25 billion in debt financing and $1 billion in equity financing to, quote, innovative Canadian prefabricated home builders. So essentially, these will be subsidized housing, government housing. And he's going to offer another $10 billion in low-cost financing and capital to affordable home builders. So
now, this is one that I've liked. Like to me, I thought, like especially say like a company that's small or they're up and coming, be like, hey, you know what? I'm gonna go get my foot in the door and go to the government and say, hey, we will build these type of homes. Tell us the design. This is what we build. And if you go to Winnipeg, if you go to any military place, they're just boxes. Build a straight box, make it 1,200 square feet, 3 bedrooms, 4 bedrooms, and you could build a lot of those very quickly. And that's where I think it would be good for one, builders, giving people incentivize it. But again, I don't know how you figure out where do they get their money? Are they going to be allowed to say, hey, I've built it X fast, I get X amount of money? Like that's to me is the hardest part. I think there should just be a cap on how much they can make to say, hey, your profit can't be over 15%. If your profit's over 15%, that gets moved over to the next budget, the next product, where obviously people want to make more, but it's like, hey, we have to do this. It gets your foot in the door. Maybe once you make a name for yourself, then you get to go and start going to the normal person that wants to build a home, where right now you have to do it for a cost.
Yeah. I think on top of this here, Carney's adding that he wants to cut the red tape and he wants to trim municipal development charges by half for this multi-unit residential housing. So municipalities, they still want to earn money. So what he's going to do is give them grants. So what does this all mean? Where does this money all come from? It comes from you and I. We are essentially going to subsidize this. So
and it's going to come in debt. It's going to be
debt. It's going to come in either debt or higher taxes. So 500,000 a year, do you believe him? Didn't Trudeau say the same thing in 2015? His whole, we want to build more affordable.
Yeah, I believe that. I think the government has realized like they need to start building affordable homes. I do think that is the thing now. I think they know that is a problem. But again, how are they going to do it? And like, let's hit some targets that can actually be hit. Let's try and run this program and say, hey, we're going to do this. Our first goal is to get to 300,000 homes a year. Boom, we've done that. We met our budget. Hey, we learned some things from it. We're going to adjust it. We're actually going to drop down to 250. Or hey, you know what? We did so well. We're going to push it to 400. Don't just say you're going to build 500,000 homes. We've only built half of that once.
Yeah, and no politician will admit it. To build affordable homes, home prices need to come down. They're not going to say it because it'd be political suicide. Because 50% of homeowners are boomers and who are a major voting bloc. And we all know that, but they're not willing to say it. So
Yeah.
That's really gonna, and you know what? We've actually seen homes being more affordable now. It's just that we're in an uncertain economic environment for that to happen. One little small thing before we wrap up here. NDP leader Jagmeet Singh says if he gets elected, now you're smiling and you're laughing. If he gets elected, he'll get lower mortgage rates for first-time home buyers. So I don't know what poll you're looking at, Jagmeet, but you're not going to win anyway. So does it really matter? I don't know. I don't want to disrespect him in that case, but like, I don't want to give it. You got to give it some airtime on this one.
I think it's something, to me, I feel like they're, just so everyone knows, the way that our mortgage rates now went up to, it's insane. We have insured rates. We have an insurable rate. But hey, if you don't put 35% down, you're at this rate. The amount of different rates that we have now it's pretty mind-boggling, and it can be very confusing for a client. I remember talking about this probably 2 years ago on TikTok, though, actually. I felt like it was a way of like, how do we talk about getting the lower rates for first-time home buyers? And even talking about people that are maybe second buyers, third buyers. Obviously, we know people are buying multiple homes. They usually have more money than the person buying the first home. And talking about maybe a tiered system. Hey, that first home, you get the lowest rate. Hey, that second home, you are going to be at a higher rate. If you sell that home, maybe yes, you can go back to that. If you're going to own four rental properties, hey, you pay a premium. Right now, you only have to pay a premium if you buy a rental property, where if I go buy a primary residence, I don't pay a premium. Maybe the lenders say, hey, you know what? You own 4 homes. You're buying that primary residence. Hey, there's a 0.5% premium because you own 4 other homes. Like, I feel like there's some of that. And maybe, hey, those profits, that when that happens, that doesn't go to the lender. Maybe that goes back to like first-time home buyers. Maybe it's like a new fund. I feel like there's some cool things maybe that could happen that way. But again, like we're changing like a lot of stuff for that.
Yeah, you got a lot of great ideas. And I said this before, Alex, you should run for office. Vote for Alex Shanks. Now, we don't know what party you're going, so it's very important you pick the right party. But if you run for office, I'll vote for you, Alex.
I'll give us the lowest interest rates out there and go to the moon.
Sounds good. Well, I think this kind of wraps it up. Do you have any closing thoughts?
No, I think it's good. Alex and I were talking about bringing someone on actually just to do a full political overview here, because we do have a lot of stuff coming up here on April 28th with the election. And I think it would be good to have someone that might be able to talk about the other stuff. The nice thing, I feel like Alex and I, like, we agree on some things, but we don't agree on everything. And so it'll be an open discussion to be able to talk about stuff, hear what other people are thinking about as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. We've been talking about possibly bring in a political commentator just to talk about what's going on, maybe not related to housing, because our election is less than 30 days away. So this is something Canadians should know about, and not just listen to social media, because a lot of times social media just pushes you content that you're biased already. So if you're liberal, you'll see a lot of more liberal stuff. If you're more conservative, you see a lot of Carney stuff, not Carney, but Poilievre stuff and all that. So it's good to have a non-biased, non-partisan view of things, like each party's platform, what's good, what's got, and all that stuff. So folks, again, thank you for your support. Make sure to follow, like, and subscribe. And if you like this pod, please share it with someone else that you know, so we can grow our following and continue to do this and bring in more guests. Okay. So on behalf of Alex Shanks, I'm Alex Pang. Thanks for tuning into the episode, and we'll see you next time.
Talk to you later. Now, if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to like and subscribe. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple, make sure to follow us. Please give us a 5-star rating. You can even send us an email, because we want to know what you guys want to hear about. That's what we're here for. Reach out anytime.